P Q R S T 4 3 double X Y and Z.
So this is the first test of recording in a situation that is not normal situation for my YouTube channel. I am actually in the car, and I won't be paying too much attention looking at the lens of this camera, of course, because I want to make sure I'm driving good. However, I wanted to see how the audio would be and the video would be, because right now the camera is set to shutter priority, and I think when I'm on video it's set to auto ISO. That way I can ensure the shutter is good. I also have an electronic stabilizer on. Right now I have a 35mm lens on, which is set to always focus on my face, but there's no VR in that lens, in the 35mm. I'm actually considering the Tamron 35 that has the VC, specific for this purpose, to do handheld wide footage. I love 35mm focal length, so I don't know, I'm considering it. Nikon doesn't have a 35 with VR. They do have a 24, I think, with VR, but it's a little bit too wide for my taste. So anyway, I wanted to see how the audio would sound for the most part in a car situation like this, where it's just there's noise from the road, from the car, from the engine, and although I'm like, the sound is fairly isolated because I'm actually in the car instead of outside of the car. With the last video that I did, there was that test of what settings for the microphone was actually best, and so I left it at those settings, at level 4 for the microphone volume, and then with the Rode VideoMic Pro set to +20 with high pass filter turned on to help remove some of that background noise from the hiss of an engine and whatnot. So, and I guess I should say, right now the camera is not like on a tripod mounted to the floor or anything. I am holding the tripod, but I'm not actually really paying attention to it while I'm driving, so I'm just kind of driving and just, sort of just one-handing it, which is fine, because I do that all the time anyway. I rarely use two hands while driving, so it's okay. So I'm doing a pit stop at the post office to check my P.O. box, and then I'm heading back home, and I can't wait to check out this footage to see how it is doing with the audio, because the audio is my only real concern with this camera. The video quality is not really a concern for me. I gotta turn here. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Did my P.O. box stop, and now I'm heading home. So today I've got a fairly busy day of work, and then we got some brainstorming meetings going on at work, and then tomorrow we're going to have some lunch with some friends, and then supposed to snow about 2 to 5 inches tomorrow. So I think we're going to be driving about an hour drive back home in the middle of the snow. So that should be interesting. I think we get Sunday to just relax and work on some adoption things. We have to take these classes. We did 12 hours of classes, and we've taken now 4 hours, so we've got a bunch more to do. The camera has fantastic metering system. I mean, it is a Nikon, a professional digital SLR from Nikon, so it has a fantastic metering system that's been, tried and tested over the many, many, many years, 100 years. So, I'm sure the exposure is good on me, and the white balance is probably pretty good. Right now I think I have it set to auto white balance, so that's probably okay as well. When I'm in the studio, I actually preset the white balance, but when I'm out and about, usually I have it as auto white balance, unless I know I'm in a room or a situation that is pretty much set. Like I could right now put this on daylight white balance and not worry about the white balance. In a situation where you might be going between different lighting styles, so for example, if you're walking around New York City and you're at night, then daylight, you're going to get tungsten lights, you're going to get fluorescent lights, you're going to get neon lights, LED lights, you're going to get all sorts of different colors and whatnot. So at that point, it's a little bit trickier with the auto white balance. So it might, in a situation like that, might actually be best bringing a color checker passport and doing a preset white balance based on that. I feel like I've done this video before, and I probably have for the GH5, when I was like learning the GH5 and determining what's the best settings for me to use on the Panasonic GH5. I probably did the same exact test that I'm doing right now to determine, you know, the best, nobody ever comes that road, to determine the best, you know, audio settings and whatever for the GH5 with this microphone. So it took me a little bit to figure it out, and I did, and that was good. I'm using the D850 now, and I was using the GH5, and the D850 is a digital SLR. The GH5 was a mirrorless camera, a Micro Four Thirds mirrorless camera. And the weight difference is so minimal. Yes, the D850 is heavier, but it's actually not heavier by much. So I got to thinking, you see this backlight over here? This is the front of my house. I'm at my dining room table right now. And if I was photographing this with stills, which the D850 obviously can do, I would actually be adding a little bit of fill light and adjusting for the backlight. But when I am videoing for my vlog or anything like that, I could adjust the exposure manually, but many times when I'm doing something like this where it's just me, I will actually put it into like shutter priority or something like that and let the camera basically figure it out. Now I do have the chandelier on above our dining room table, so it's adding a little bit of fill light on me. So I'm just curious of how this does in video in shutter priority with this backlight. So it should be metering and focusing on me right now. So that obviously didn't adjust the exposure well enough. It was still very dark, so I just switched it to spot metering to see if that helps. And I also am noticing that with the facial recognition, it's always focused on me, but it constantly is trying to refocus. So I've just switched it to AF tracking, which you set the spot where you want it to focus, and then it kind of just stays there. So I'm hoping that does something. I also have it on in video AFF, which is like autofocus full time, basically. It's kind of what, I don't know if that's actually what it stands for, but that's what I'm calling it, where it just always is focusing. That way, if I'm moving, it refocuses and whatnot, instead of AFS, which is AF single. So we'll see. I'm going to check again and see how that goes. Again, this is just a whole bunch of tests that I wanted to share publicly in the video because, well, if I figured out what is best for me for vlogging, it could be beneficial for anybody else trying to vlog with the Nikon D850. So it does look like that autofocus shift of the tracking versus the facial recognition actually did a pretty good job of keeping the focus sort of consistent on me instead of constantly hunting back and forth. And I think that'll be good for most situations like in the studio, but out in the field, either manual focus or the facial recognition might actually be a little bit better. Now, as far as the exposure goes, I still got some figuring out to do because I still couldn't get it to automatically adjust for me. And maybe I think there's a backlight setting that I could put on for auto metering. So I just got to double check that in the camera settings. But for now, I put it on manual exposure, and now it should actually look pretty good. I got my tea, I got my bag, I got my camera. Time to go back down to the office and check out all the footage and get to work because I got a meeting soon.